Hello and welcome to the Autocar Show. Now the Toyota Corolla has just been launched in the Indian market and we're going to put it up against its competitors. But who really are they? Well, first up we have the Skoda Octavia. We really liked this car when we drove the auto version. It came out a winner in the battle. So the manual version was an obvious choice in this battle. Then, of course, there's the segment leader, which is the Hyundai Elantra. Loads of them on the roads. And there's another one in this battle, which is the Renault Fluence, a solid package, just had a facelift. Does it make it a stronger competitor? Well, that's what this fight is all about, to find out which really is the best executive sedan out on our roads. There's a certain status that comes with owning an executive sedan, and though comfort and practicality influence buying decisions, looks are pretty important to customers too. The newest in the bunch is the Corolla. It's fresh and much better than its dull predecessor. The Toyota's upturned chrome grille adorns its nose and the narrow horizontal headlights give it a wider look. The character lines make it look more athletic, but the large gap between the tires and the body give it an awkward stance. The Renault Fluence with its recent facelift looks much sportier. The new grille wraps itself around the logo and there are chrome outlines for the fog lamps. There are daytime running lights too in the bumper. It's a smart-looking car and quite appealing too. But the one that really draws eyeballs in this bunch is the Elantra. It may have been around a while, but Hyundai's fluidic design is an eye-catcher. The low roof, the smooth flowing lines and the bulging headlamps are all a part of its charm. Standing in this bunch, the Octavia looks like the shy girl on a catwalk. It's the longest car and leans more towards practicality in its design than style. The interior of the Elantra is definitely the one that wows you the most. It's funky, it's interesting, it's modern. Quality may not be on par with the rest, but it's definitely the best equipped, especially for the price it comes at. In fact, the Elantra is the best equipped, offering you even things like ventilated front seats, which in the sweltering heat were a big boon to cool us down. However, the small monochrome display screen seems a little outdated and was difficult to use with a mix and match of knob twists and button presses to get things done. The audio also doesn't recognize track data and you have to control that via your device. Toyota have tried to make the interior of the Corolla unique, but the cliff-faced fascia comes across as a bit harsh and unappealing to me at least. It also feels high for shorter drivers and there's an awful lot of reflection off the top of it, which can be quite an irritant while driving. The touchscreen, though modern, also reflects a lot, making it hard to read. Plastics also fall short for a car of this price. The Fluence has a pleasant cabin just like its exterior. It's nice to look at on the inside. Surfaces have a nice soft feel, the digital speedometers are easy to read and there are some nice touches like the stitching on the gear lever and the steering wheel with the contrast piping on the seats. But it too has its quirks. The buttons for the music system are small and the controls for it on the steering are placed on a stalk that's really out of sight. And the cruise control switches are near the gear lever. But the biggest inconvenience is the bonnet release that's placed on the passenger side. The Octavia's cabin may be simpler than the others, but it's one that will win you over with its quality feel, good fit and finish, and the large, comfortable seats. There are small touches like the touchscreen that lights up as you draw your hand near it that leave you feeling quite special. And it's not only the interior that makes you feel that way, it's the same when you're behind the wheel. The Octavia's engine is clearly the strongest one here. When you put your foot down, you get this nice slug of torque that shoves you back in your seat. You don't feel that in any of the other cars in this battle. So definitely the most exciting and thrilling engine to drive. But more than that, it's also very, very drivable. It's not just outright performance. The power comes in nice and early. So when you slow down, and you have to get a move on, you can really do it without having to work the gears too much. And whenever you put your foot down, you always find power. The Octavia's 2-litre TDI engine is really the gem in this bunch. It feels strong from as low as 1500 RPM and you can pull right up to the 5000 RPM mark. With a healthy 32.6 kgm of torque, you can pull through the gears always feeling like you have more power. However, on the downside, it feels quite noisy and the drone filters sharply into the cabin. The Elantra's 1.6-litre in contrast is extremely refined. And with 126 bhp at its disposal, it feels quite quick too. But you have to keep this motor spinning above 2000 RPM to really enjoy it. And in our traffic conditions, one often has to dip below that. So you really have to work the gears in traffic, and the clutch feels a bit heavy too, which can be tiring, especially on a long drive. It's the same story with the Fluence. The clutch is heavy, and though the 1.5-litre K9K feels like it has adequate power for most situations, it also needs to be spun above 1900 RPM to react. Meaning, again, a lot of gear changes in traffic conditions. The engine is pretty refined though. The Corolla has the smallest engine. The 1.4-litre 87 bhp motor does feel the slowest. It is very sluggish below 2000 RPM and you often find your foot flat on the throttle trying to extract power, but it just doesn't come. Progress is very slow. Using path throttle is much better and is best driven at a leisurely pace. It does get better after 2000 RPM, but the power band is really narrow and it runs out of steam by 3500 RPM again. Whether it's performance or dynamics, it's the Octavia that offers the best experience. Overall, it's the Octavia that's the one that makes you feel most sure-footed, whether it's, we're talking about stability in a straight line at high speeds or then turning around corners. The Octavia is the one that definitely feels the most planted. The steering is quick to respond, points the car exactly where you want it to go, gives you feedback, and it makes you feel confident when you drive this car. Though the Corolla is improved over its predecessor in terms of handling and the steering feel, it's best driven at an easy pace. The steering is better weighted and grip is good, but there's a lot of roll and bad patches of road can really unsettle it too. The weightier steering makes it a bit heavy in traffic conditions and you can feel the bumps filtering through. With the car getting unsettled over rough patches, it really doesn't inspire confidence either. The Fluence's steering is a good mix of feeling light and easy in the city but weighing up well at higher speeds. And over a series of corners, it feels planted and turns in well too. In fact, the Fluence comes in second to the Octavia. Handling is really not the Elantra's forte. The steering feels overly light and the rear is very soft, bobbing and getting unsettled over bad surfaces and under heavy braking. Now, whilst we have spoken about the behind-the-wheel experience, for the executive sedans, chances are that owners will spend a lot of time in the back seat. So let's get down to that experience. Well, if there's one thing that the Fluence stands out for, it's the ride quality. It just irons out the roads, doesn't let much filter through at all to the rear seat passenger. And it's not only about bumps and potholes, it's about the insulation of the cabin on the whole. It just cuts out outside sound so well that it really feels like a premium luxury car at the back here. The Fluence's backseat is very generous on legroom too, but the low roof can be cumbersome to taller passengers, and you find that you sit low as well. It's the same on the Elantra. The seating is low, the roof is inches off the head, and to add to it, the upswept window line restricts visibility. But the Elantra does let the rear passenger control the audio via buttons on the armrest. With all the bobbing and pitching that this car does, backseat passengers get quite tossed around as well, making the ride not a great experience. The Corolla's backseat is probably the best place for 3 people to sit abreast. Space is good too. One of the features that we really liked in the backseat of the Corolla was the fact that you can actually recline your seat some more so you can get really comfortable and lazy on a long journey. But there are no rear aircon vents, which in the summer can make the back seat quite stuffy until the front aircon cools the entire car. Also, the outer edge of the seats doesn't extend to the doors, sometimes leaving you feeling a bit uncomfortable if there are 3 people seating abreast. The low-speed ride of the Corolla is pretty impressive. Over bad roads, it just has this nice, soft, pliant edge and cuts out all the sharpness that the roads throw at you. So, when you're in city conditions and ambling around in traffic, the Corolla's ride does pretty well. But as the car gains speed, this changes quite drastically, with the Corolla crashing through larger bumps and unsettling itself. It's got a very high ground clearance, so though it goes over more than others, it will make the ride a little more uncomfortable than the rest. Well, if we're talking in terms of sheer legroom, then the Octavia is a clear winner. There's loads of legroom over here. And the fact that it has a light cabin, large window spaces makes it feel very, very airy. So you'll end up feeling like you're sitting in a very large space. However, despite the fact that the third passenger probably has the most room in this back seat, and of course the nicest place to sit with this flat central portion, he doesn't really have much leg room because the central tunnel is high and the console intrudes into the rear space. The Octavia has a low-speed stiffness which filters through a lot to the passengers in the back seat. And the lack of insulation makes so much noise come in as well, amplifying the experience. It does improve as you gain speed, but it just doesn't match up to the Fluence that feels pliant and comfortable at all times. Now, the newest entrant into this segment, the Toyota Corolla, has improved over its predecessor in many ways, in fact in every which way. It's now not only a practical buy, but an appealing one as well. But unfortunately, it loses out in this battle, and that's because it's the most expensive of the lot, it comes with the least power, and it doesn't really wow you on any count. Which leaves us with the other 3. So let's take the Elantra and the Fluence first. The Hyundai Elantra looks good, feels great on the inside, and is very refined. At Rs 15.05 lakh for the top SX version, it's incredible value too. But it has its downsides. It's fussy to drive in the city with the lack of power at lower speeds, and the experience behind the wheel is really lackluster. The backseat experience is also marred by the low seating, sloping roofline, and hemmed-in feel with the rising window. Apart from which, the ride quality suffers with a softer setup. The Fluence also has similar complaints in the rear seat, with it being low and the roof being a hindrance to taller passengers. But the ride quality is really the best, so if you're not 6 feet 2 inches, you should enjoy this back seat. It's a nice car to drive as well, and apart from the few niggling ergonomic issues, it's a car that makes you feel good on the inside. We haven't seen enough of these on the road, and we feel it's quite underrated. However, it's still not the winner here. So that leaves us with a car that really stands out in this segment. It has the best combination of performance, practicality, comfort, driving dynamics, quality. In fact, it's the complete package, which is what makes the Skoda Octavia a clear winner in this segment.